Hey everyone, I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
I'm Ben.
And today, Mature Minded Gamers is going to be bringing you our top 10 list for games with miniatures. Not necessarily board games, not necessarily mini war games, but anything gaming related that has miniatures, what each of our top 10 lists and favorites are. I think we're going to have a couple different crossovers in this list. I mean, there's some really games that stand out as far as like great games that feature miniatures. May not be the best quality of miniatures, but it's the best game in a genre necessarily, right? So I'm really thinking we're gonna have. I think we're gonna have. I think 2 3-way crossovers, maybe 3, and I think I'm gonna probably have. I think I'm gonna have 4 with you.
4 crossovers with me?
I think I'm going to have 3 with you.
3?
Yeah.
You're going for 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think that I'm probably going to have 5 crossovers with Ben and maybe 2 or 3 with you.
Okay.
Number 10.
My number 10 is going to be Firefly, the board game. I put this on my list knowing that it would not be a crowd favorite because it was really one of the first bigger epic games that I have gotten into. I'm a big fan of Firefly, so getting to fly my own version of a Firefly-based ship was pretty awesome. It got my gaming group together probably tighter than we'd ever been. We played almost on a weekly basis. And there was probably 5 or 6 of us at a time, so it was just a good time for me to play. Some of the facets of this game that I love most is that it is pretty true to the Firefly universe. They use a lot of the planets that show up in the universe itself. There is a massive map that got bigger as expansions came out, and at each planet, then you got a little bit of a signature of that planet from the cards that were related to that planet. So I don't know. The game in itself was just like massive in its size. It took a while to learn
And a long time to play it.
It does take a long time to play it, and it's how did you put the game earlier? You said it's a beer and pretzels type game. So like we would often. Did you say that?
You would call Firefly a beer and pretzels game?
Well, I would say it's a beer and pretzels kind of thing because that's how we would do. We would have snacks around, and so while you
need to eat. It's like you have to have a bunch of food around.
Well, so you would be playing your round, and the rest of us would be mowing down on some popcorn or having a conversation or planning out our next move, and we had
Right, because that's the problem with the game. There's way too much downtime between your turn. Like somebody's going to take 15, 20 minutes just looking at all the cards, thinking about it. And I know that's what you're supposed to be doing between your turns.
Yeah, okay, so look, there is an active component to this game where when it's not your turn, you need to be planning out. And there's only so far you can go in planning out the game because somebody is going to affect what you're going to do. However, it's fun to me. I don't know. The strategy in this and the scale of it was great. So I haven't talked about any of the game pieces whatsoever. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. So here's the thing. Like this game is just way too long. I don't think there's enough player interaction with how big the board is and how long it takes you to roll. Ooh, I rolled a 2. Okay. Oh, I have a better engine. If I could use one more move. It takes way too long to play.
It is made better with your downtime. You can ask Brad who each of the characters is and what episode of the 12 episodes of Firefly they star in.
Right. I mean, if you're a huge fan of Firefly, absolutely, you're probably going to like it. I like Firefly.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just the game does not have enough player interaction.
Okay, so when we started playing, it did not have both the expansions out. When the expansion came out called... and we'll have to edit this in. Not the Blue Sun one. It's the
Pirates.
The Pirates and whichever expansion that one was. The second one that came out. It allowed for more direct player interaction to be able to board one another's ships and take bounties and do that. So it did create a little bit more.
I'm not looking at your list.
You are too.
I'm thinking.
It created some more player interaction, but some of the things, other parts of this I want to talk about is that the models were bigger, maybe not super chunky, but they're bigger, and you can see some detail on each of the ships. There were 3 basic player models that you could use, and maybe 2 other models. So anyway, it just it was a lot of fun.
Did you get the upgraded ships?
I only got 1 set of the upgraded ships.
All right, so yeah, I mean that's definitely a choice for this list. All right, so my number 10 is a game by Corvusbelli called Aristea. I absolutely love this game. It is a very quick, more of a beer and pretzel style game where you're going to be taking just a small skirmish, setting up a map, and choosing your heroes, throwing the deck of cards together, and planning your turn, rolling some dice. The models are fantastic, as Corvusbelli always just does a fantastic job. This time they're actually in plastic, which is great. It doesn't have a lot of deck building, and that's what I like, because I think when you get into too much deck building for me, I just want to throw down a game and I want to play it. I just want to have a great time. I don't want to spend hours upon hours just sifting through cards, looking at a bunch of junk when I could just take a couple cards, throw them together and play. Great game, really fun, and really quick. Number 10. All right.
My number 10 is Fantasy Flight's X-WING. Being a big fan of Star Wars, being able to get the ships and go straight into dogfights made me flash back to a lot of Rogue Squadron when I was a kid on the N64. So being able to get that, being able to collect your ships, I mean, anytime you can get the Falcon and an X-Wing into a dogfight, that's going to be fun.
Absolutely. That's a good choice.
Getting those, being able to collect those. I've not dived in deep because you can put a lot of money into that, but just getting the ships that I want, that's been fun to be able to play with.
Yeah. I definitely like that game. I think that some of the problems that they have, especially when it first came out, was you had to buy a certain expansion, even if you didn't want the ship, just to get that one card that you needed to meta game to be able to get that ultimate build or whatever. And I'm not that kind of player. You may be, but I'm not. But the models are great.
Oh yeah, models are beautiful. And like you said, the first version especially, you had that. I've yet to play 2.0. But I have gone through and gotten the expansion or the conversion kits. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on getting everything sorted through. And that's been nice because now I don't have to go and buy new models. I just, update this.
That's the thing. On that game there, I'm going to argue back with you on this one. Because when you buy a game and then you're like, they decide, yes, we're going to need to milk some more money out of you. And then issue a version 2. So that way you can continue buying models. I'm not into that. So
Brad's just upset because Star Trek went and made a copy version called Assault Wing that's not nearly as good.
And it's better.
Yeah, it's forgettable.
It's not that bad. It's a lot of the same rules, and I like it. What's wrong with Attack Wing is the scale is off.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you think about how big the capital ships are versus some of like the smaller, like the Defiant. I mean, it's almost the same size as like the Federation capital ships and stuff. Yeah. So I mean, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing. But as far as like when you get to the second edition type stuff, milking money, the second edition cleaned up a lot of the rules. For like when X-Wings first came out, I mean, obviously the game was great, and then as things evolved, for somebody to want to buy the next expansion, they had to make that ship better. Yeah. And eventually the X-Wings and the TIE Fighters started to not be as good, right? Yeah. So they had really tried to balance everything back out. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all.
Even adding in the Force stuff, that was a good addition. Like,
right,
to have that, and that's not in the first edition at all.
Well, let me ask you this, Brad. So how is that any different than like Dungeons and Dragons releasing second edition, third edition?
Oh, I mean, I have my problems with that too. But I'm also I'm complaining over here as somebody who didn't invest at all into X-Wing because of that. So
well, you don't spend money anyway. So all right,
number 9.
I'm cheating a little bit because I've got a couple of games on here I've bought and I have yet to play, and this is one of them. Number 9 for me is actually Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Bought that one because I'm a big fan of Fallout, and looking at the models on that looked real interesting, and the little bit I've seen with the gameplay made me say, okay, at the very least I want to get this one so I can play it and be able to paint these minis. So can't really say too much about it, but I did get that one.
Yeah. So in Fallout Wasteland Warfare, the one thing that I had a problem with the actual components is when you look at the dice themselves that comes in the game, they're not the highest quality. I mean, on some of the D6, I mean, you may have this in your copy if you own the game, but the D6 has divots in it. So it's not an actual cube. It like one side may be like have a dip. And they really skimped on the quality of some of the components. I am very intrigued in this Morpheus system that they have, though, because the Elder Scrolls version is coming out. Love me some Elder Scrolls, and I am very excited about that. So, Good choice. All right. So my number 9 is something that I had started to play about 3 years ago or so, and I actually became a pundit for them for Steamforged Games, and that is Guild Ball. absolutely love Guild Balls. Anybody else? Is this on
Oh, yeah.
anybody else's list?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
Well, hey, that's one of our crossovers. The Alchemist is my team. I have a lot of the metal team. I haven't really dive too deep into a lot of the plastic kits yet. I have a couple of them. Like I have the Falconers and I have the Harvest. And when they got rid of the pundit system the first time is when I kind of stopped, to be honest with you, because not many people play it where I play.
Yeah.
I mean, besides you guys.
Yeah, not many people play it here too. We're separated by some distance, but Ben and I play. And I've played with Will a handful of times, and it's an awesome game.
Mm-hmm.
It seems daunting when you first sit down with a new player going through the rule book, and the thing I have to explain is these are all the rules for every situation. I'm not going to use them every single turn, and that helps people get the grasp of it. But no, like you said, it's great. I'm actually liking the plastic. It's a bit cheaper to put into a team, and you get the goalpost and some terrain thrown in there, which is nice.
Yeah, the goalposts are nice. Which is your favorite team so far?
I actually keep going back to the Masons. I like the Masons. That's one of the ones you get in the starter kit, but I enjoy them.
Sure.
Well,
You're pretty good. Alchemist.
Alchemist.
100%.
Okay, I don't own them yet, but the Farmers Guild has been the most fun for me to play with.
Yeah. Or you whipped my butt when I was playing the Falconers.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've got the Ironworkers though, and I really want to play with the Ironworkers. I just haven't had a chance yet.
Very awesome.
My number 9 is going to be Xia Legends of a Drift System. I chose this game because the models look amazing. The gameplay is what Firefly, the board game, should have been like with space battles and the way that the system kind of evolved. And the fact that you're starting with a very small system and that the more you explore, the bigger the board gets, and it's different every single time.
Oh, that game is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna lie, it's on my list. We'll get to it in a minute, but yeah. So
Yeah, well, we'll cover it more later then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Xia is not on my top 10, but it's on my honorable mention, so.
Sure.
Number 8.
My number 8 is going to be Star Wars Imperial Assault. I chose this game because it is another one of those epic in scale where you start the game, you start with some characters, and you continue to build them out as you go along. I've only been maybe 5 or 6 scenarios into this game, but I have loved nearly every single minute until you get somebody who's got some analysis paralysis. And then the game sort of takes a dive because you end up having to wait for somebody to like almost min-max their entire turn, and it gets a little daunting at that. But otherwise, it fits in the Star Wars world. I love playing as the different characters and really zeroing in on how a character will play.
Have you had a chance to play this with the app? Have you only played it like with people playing one as a dungeon master? Have you been able to play it?
Have not been able to play it as a map.
Okay.
Same.
Have not.
Awesome. So it's really cool being able to play it with the digital version. So awesome. This is on my list, so I'm gonna talk about it in a little bit. So that's another crossover. You got that on yours?
Oh, yeah. It's on
I'll tell you what, we got some crossovers.
Okay.
All right, so my number 8 is, in the same universe, the Star Wars universe, and that is actually Star Wars Rebellion. If there was a game that really put the movies feel on the table, hands down, this is it. Have you guys played this game yet?
No.
Not yet.
Nope, I haven't had a chance.
It basically the entire trilogy. They released an expansion that they introduced a lot of the components from the characters and stuff from Rogue One,
Oof.
and they reform like how combat worked. And this game, you have to have the expansion, in my opinion, to really get this game. It's good by itself, but without the expansion, it takes it up to the next level. The miniatures are great. There's tons of them. It has that Risk feel, but the fact that the rebels are trying to hide the base and the Empire is trying to find the rebel hidden base. I mean, you really can play out the movies with some awesome twists, and it's absolutely amazing.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Mine is actually going to be Crisis Protocol. Marvel Comics is another one of my favorites, and being able to play the characters in that. I mean, sculpts look pretty good. There's a few things I'd like to change on them, but for the most part, I really like the sculpts. But being able to get in, play with that, build your own scenario off of what things you put in. Will's got a 3D printer, and already looking at some of the stuff that I want to put into my own games from that makes me super excited to really dive into that one. And I think the thing that really attracted me to it is you don't end up having to assemble a huge army. You build off the characters, and that feels less to me, which seems more. So,
Sure.
hey, here are my favorite characters from the comics. I'm going to throw those in. There's my army. And that part seems real nice and attractive to me.
I mean, the game is if you've played War Machine, it was designed by a lot of the guys that did Privateer Press, who work for Atomic Mass now. The problem that I have with not necessarily the game itself and the gameplay, but with the miniatures, is the number of pieces that make up a kit. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, Rocket Raccoon. Putting him together, his head, he had his top of his head, and then his bottom jaw was another piece. Why? We have a couple unboxing videos for some of these as well, and we talk about it in there as far as like all the little pieces that just doesn't make sense. And I know they're coming out with some more expansions like Ant-Man. I mean, he's gonna be tiny. I mean, I wonder, is he gonna be like 9 pieces to put together a little Ant-Man? I mean, are you serious? I understand as far as like having smaller pieces to get the better detail, and that's part of the modeling. But there are, like, on Loki, you got to put his horns on his head. It's just a little much. I get what they're trying to do, become an actual model, model kit. But man, it's a little much. The game is amazing.
Did this show up on? I haven't played it yet. Did this show up on your list?
It's on my short list. This one did not make my list. I love Marvel. I love this game. It's just the game's on my list. I just felt like I edged it out.
Yeah.
Number 7.
All right, my number 7, it's going to be Guild Ball, so we already covered this a little bit. Just to put my flair on it, I love having the open map on that and kind of playing a sports-related game, not being a sports guy myself.
See, that's the thing, is I'm not either, and it's on my list.
And but I love the idea that each team brings its own characteristic, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what more I have to add that you guys didn't add earlier. It's an amazing game.
Right. So my number 7 is actually a game that I use Hot Wheels for. And my number 7 is Gaslands. This one is by Mike Harrison. It was actually published by Osprey Games. It's actually a company that prints books. They do a lot of like historical books and things like that. And they started getting into releasing these books that have like rule sets. And it is, you use Hot Wheels, you model them yourself, paint them yourself, whatever, and you're going to be moving your car around. Basically, think Mad Max, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically Mad Max, and it is one of the cheapest games you can get into that has so much depth, so much gameplay in there. They just released a second edition for it. Thoughts on this game?
It's on my list, so I'll talk about it.
I'll get to it when I get to it.
Fantastic, love it. So,
For my number 7, it's actually going to be Imperial Assault. Again, Star Wars, so automatically drawn to that one. But I like that, being able to have that campaign. I always love role-play games and being able to do that, build your character as you go. And that's what they offer. You get this character, you get to develop them, add new traits, get better equipment, and then be able to go fight the Empire. So being able to get that one, the sculpts are pretty good. There's a few things on them, especially with the Stormtroopers that, yeah, you could probably do better, but that's okay. And I think that's what they improved on with another game that's on my list. But no, the gameplay with it and being able to look at it and work out how you're going to do that against the Empire made it real fun for me.
So I'm going to add one more thing to this game now that it's on somebody else's list. My biggest complaint about this game is how not portable your characters are. So I've started a game with Will. I've started 2 games with Ben. And each time I've had to start back over at ground zero without being able to take my character forward. And each time I restarted, it wasn't because we had a desire to. It was because like one person dropped off the game. And you really have to have a committed group of people to continue playing the story forward. Otherwise, you're going to have to start back off at ground zero and play through again. So there's a lot of wasted time if you can't get a group of committed people.
Yeah, that's the one downside with it. It's kind of like D&D. If you don't have a committed group that's going to stick with you, you kind of get screwed when they leave.
I encourage you guys to check out the app.
Mm-hmm.
I should do that. Game.
Yeah.
You guys work together, and the app controls the Empire. It's really cool. And it's a different story.
Okay, cool.
Number 6.
So my number 6, going off Imperial Assault, is actually Star Wars Legion. They kind of took the idea that I was already seeing come up in Imperial Assault with just, here's the 2 armies, have at it, have a fight without that story, without that building a character, and you just do warfare with it. And that part's fun to me, being able to take the Empire and the Rebels and go fight. I haven't had a chance to check out the Clone Wars expansion that they're doing with the troopers and the battle droids, but I really want to get into that one, especially being able to field some of the Jedi as generals out on the field. Oh, that's going to be fun. But yeah, Star Wars Legion, that's the next follow-up.
Legion is definitely fun. You talk about the Clone Wars one, the droids. I mean, there's so many little pieces. I don't know if it's an Asmodee thing as far as like with their model kits, with what they're doing with like. There's so many little pieces that you got to put together. It just doesn't make sense. So, but I agree. The game is absolutely amazing. I know they released some skirmish rules. You can play with the smaller forces. I was hoping that they would do more of like a skirmish game where you have one stormtrooper you move around as opposed to just a less amount of points.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they would have done something like that. Have more of a skirmish level, a smaller battle. That would be cool. But the models are great. Do you have any of the bigger vehicles?
No, haven't picked up any of the bigger vehicles yet, just because of pricing. But I've picked up some of the characters. Like automatically, I was looking for Han Solo, Leia, Chewie, Boba Fett. Like, got to get the named characters for me.
Absolutely. They're a blast to paint, pretty chunky. Now, you were talking about Imperial Assault in comparison to how the models were improved.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the Stormtrooper actual model is better than the Imperial Assault model?
I think the thing that got me is the fact that they kind of need to, but each Stormtrooper has a different pose.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bit more dynamic pose to it. The Imperial Assault, it's a weird pose to me, especially now that I'm getting in and painting them. Like, it's the same pose for every trooper. You can vary that with the painting scheme, but same pose. And being able to put the troopers in and actually have different troopers just makes it a lot more pleasing to the eye aesthetically.
Sure. There's a couple of the sculpts that are actually the same from when you go from Imperial Assault up to Legion. Some of the sculpts are exactly the same. They just actually have up to scale. I believe it was by like 13% was the actual amount. But I like the fact that you actually get to build them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not hard to put together. The core set.
Yep.
Now, again, the Clone Wars, but the core set and most of the models, they're slotted. They go well. They go together pretty well. And I mean, the same thing for Marvel Crisis Protocol. It's just so many small pieces. But anyway, won't get into that again. And yeah, I like Legion. I mean, what do you think of the dice system? Because the dice system feels so similar to XWING. Because when this game was first announced at Gen Con a couple years ago, this was kind of touted as the Star Wars 40K.
Yeah.
And then when I saw how the dice worked, it was almost like, okay, well, this is a miniature version of X-Wing instead of ground battles.
So, and this kind of hits with some of the Firefly stuff with Brad, because he's got Firefly and then Firefly Adventures, and having that crossover between the two helps me at least be able to flow. Like, okay, I'll take this. I kind of already know a system, so if I've got someone I've played X-Wing with, it's a lot easier for me to drop them in and be like, okay, here's this, slightly modified.
That makes sense. All right, so my number 6 is a game that I don't know if you guys have played. It's another Osprey game. This one is called Frostgrave. It is essentially a game that, think of like Dungeons and Dragons, where you're going to have a wizard as opposed to your character. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have an apprentice. And then you can buy and build a band of other, like archers or barbarians or, whatever you want. And you're going to be setting up a board. And, you can play up to 5, 6 other people if you wanted to. It really doesn't matter. And you're going to put treasures out on the map. And what you're doing is you're just going out there trying to collect your treasures and get off the map. Well, everybody else is doing the same things. They're just living out of resources. Uses a D20 system where you build your character. And after you play, you're going to be leveling your character up. And your wizard gets better, learns more spells. Your apprentice gets better, learns more spells. Your characters could lose eyes, fingers, legs, arms as you play. If you take an injury, you got to roll an injury chart after the game.
Wow.
Your wizard could lose a finger. That may be as good as casting. There's tons of scenarios, tons of expansion books for this game, and it is a absolute blast to play. The thing is, I buy those little Whiz Kids $5 packs just to get monsters, because there's like random monsters that'll come in. Like, you could be playing, and I have my band of 10 heroes. You got your band of 10 heroes. We're playing. All of a sudden, a couple bears come storming in, and not only are we fighting each other trying to get treasure, we're gonna stop ourselves from getting these bears.
That sounds fun.
It's awesome.
Man.
It's all absolutely awesome. I definitely have to introduce you guys to this one.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
My number 6, so the Trekkie in me is going to come out here, and I'm going to say Star Trek Ascendancy. So this game does not have what I would call stellar models. It has some decent models. The durability isn't awesome. I've already had a couple of them break after only playing a handful of times. But this scratches the itch for the Trekkie in me to be able to start as a given race and then explore the galaxy as one of those races. And I might interact with other people in the game. You more than likely will. But just seeing the different planets and taking over, control over those planets and then interacting with one another. Like, the game is almost one type of game by itself before you interact with anybody else. And then as soon as you make that connection to somebody, the dynamics change completely. And they did a great thing this last 2 Gen Cons ago where they released the Borg expansion, which added a whole nother depth to this, where you'll be playing with your buddies and you'll have that game of yourself of kind of growing outside of your home planet. And then you'll interact with a friend, and that changes the dynamic. But then the instant you pull out a Borg warp conduit, a transwarp conduit, the game changes dynamics completely, because then it becomes, I'm not going to win against you. It's like, we got to win against the Borg. So the depth of this game is amazing. They've got a couple more expansions out that I don't have yet with the Andorians and the Vulcans. But this is definitely my top, my number 6.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Galeforcenine does an amazing job at some of these themed games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
like Firefly board game.
Except for Firefly, no. So for the theme of the game, I'm not good at that. But the theme of the game, Firefly's not bad. It's whatever. But you ever kind of seen, like, it seems like to me, Star Trek Ascendancy is like Firefly 2.0, and not the story or the theme or whatever, but I'm talking about the actual mechanics. It seems like there's more player interaction, and there's more choices, there's more independencies. Now, instead of deploying one ship, you have a fleet, which is cool. The one thing that I wish there was more of, so we finally, discover each other, right? Mm-hmm. And then we can trade. I give you a resource card, you give me a resource card, so we get extra resource card. That's the diplomacy.
Yeah, that's basically it for diplomacy.
There needs to be just that something else.
Yeah.
Because just every turn, because I gave you my 3 card, you give me your 3 card, and then this player over here doesn't get any resources, extra resources a turn. So
I think that the game is meant to play with like 3 people is okay. But the good at 5 or 6 people,
too long.
Well, but that's the difference between you and I's game style. Like, I like the epic, longer game style, and I know you burn out after a while, and that's okay.
No, okay, I can dig a long game. I don't mind it. Twilight Imperium, I love it. I love Twilight Imperium. That's probably the longest game, and but you're engaged the entire time.
Okay.
Because there's no downtime to what you're doing in Twilight Imperium. I have to worry about what you're doing the entire time you're playing.
Yeah.
And that's what I have as far as, like, with Star Trek Ascendancy. I think it's great. A little confusing as far as, like, the warp paths.
Yeah. I'll admit to that. The first handful of times it was tough to play.
Right.
With that.
I think the models are great, though. I think for the most part, the game is awesome.
I
own all the expansions.
You asked earlier if this was like Firefly 2.0, and I'm going to say, like, based on my list here, this is Firefly. Firefly rules with that after the guys at GF9 got a hold of Zaya and saw that how the board expands and plays like that. I mean, if you think about that, the dynamics between the 2 games, if you kind of morph those together, you might get something like Star Trek Ascendancy.
Very cool.
The length is kind of the thing that always hits us, because anytime we've tried to play that, we always get burnt out before we really get going with interaction with players.
Or someone has to leave.
Or someone has to leave. That's
had happened multiple times.
Every time. I've never finished a game.
Right. Yeah, and it's always sucks for me because I always go Klingon, and they're all about fighting people. And by the time I finally find someone, they leave.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to finish one where I can finally go as a Klingon.
The thing is, like, every single time I've played, I've always played on a huge map.
Yeah,
and we really need the next time we play this, play them
just
on a
push
much
them together.
Smaller, much smaller.
You can vary the time of the game by making making the actual playing space smaller. The further you are from each other when the game starts, the longer the game's going to be.
Right.
Number 5.
All right, so next up on my list is Zaya Legends of a Drift System.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This game is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely amazing. The models, the ship models, they are painted.
Fully painted.
I don't know how to describe this game except for it is a sandbox space game. Mm-hmm. Like, literally, you want to be a trader. You want to be a smuggler. You want to be a pirate. You want to be a bounty hunter. Like, you want to be a police officer. Whatever you want to do. I mean, it's like Grand Theft Auto in space. I mean, you kind of go anywhere, do anything you want, right?
I don't know about the Grand Theft Auto type. I mean,
Open world, doing whatever
it
you
is.
want.
It's a lot more open world, and you get to upgrade between. So you get your starter ship, and then you upgrade to a bigger ship, but you still retain qualities from your lower ship, and
Which is
then
awesome.
You upgrade to a third ship, and that one is huge compared to your other ones, capable of doing a lot. The battle system and the damage system just add so much depth to that.
Oh, absolutely. You really need the expansion. The merchant track, the commerce track, adds so much as far as because if you find just a short route back and forth, just transfer, you could win, based on currency what you could buy, the fame or whatever points. But with that currency system, how things go up and down in value, so if you keep trading it back, selling those things back and forth, eventually they're not going to be worth as much. You're going to be making as much. As often it really, because that was the one thing that once you found that good route, I mean, if you were the one who accessed that and got that early, you could win pretty quickly. I mean, even if the other people are trying to come down at you with that police coming after you, I don't know. The game is absolutely amazing. It has so much variety and variability. I don't know, 2 games are going to be the same.
Yeah. The only reason this is placed 9 on my list and not further up, because originally I had it higher up, was that I have seen players play this game that normally don't struggle with paralysis just frozen with options in this game, and adding in you get a ship with no weapons, no shields, no engines in it whatsoever, and then so as you're building your ship basically with those. Which engine do you want? Which shield module do you want? Which do you want torpedoes or lasers? I can't remember. They're not lasers. They're blasters or something like that. But anyway, you have to do that, and then you have to choose the next model up. It's not like you're upgrading the same ship. You're choosing from another whole pool of ships again. And don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's the fact that something in it is just a little off kilter that people who normally don't get frozen freeze up in this game. Otherwise, I love it.
I can see that. I mean, that's with any game, though, but this one, because of the amount of options that you have, I could definitely see that. I'm not sure if Cody's working on another expansion or not, but I mean...
Oh, if he does, I'll pay for it. Take my money.
Absolutely. I mean, I did that when we announced the first...
The missions one.
Was it the Forsaken... Was that the expansion called Forsaken Star?
Yeah, that was the first expansion.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about the tokens. The
metal coins?
The metal coins.
Oh, gosh. The components for this are just off the chain.
And look...
Faroffgames, I tell you what, they released some more stuff. Yes. I would...
Ben, this is on your list too?
It's honorable mention, because I've not had much playtime with it. The few times we did play, we either had analysis paralysis or not enough time to really get into it.
Yeah.
All right, so...
I want to say one more thing quick. Okay, so for... this is a message straight out there to faroffgames. You do an amazing job managing your Kickstarters, and from a person that's bought into that, I get more updates from him than I have on any other Kickstarter
Cody?
Yeah, and directly from him too, and meaningful updates too. So I never have a doubt of what phase into the Kickstarter it is, where they're at in production, how they're changing things based on what they've seen and stuff like that. I feel a part of the process when Faroffgames puts out a game.
Sure. Awesome.
Number 5 for me is Gaslands. We've already talked about that one, but I really like that game. Haven't played as much with it, but just the idea of being able to Mad Max the car, that makes me love it. I can take whatever Hot Wheels I want, pay the couple bucks to get one, and then sky's the limit with what I want to do with it. And I love that part of the game. It doesn't take much to get in.
Not at all. I mean, you don't have to model them at all.
You
can, but you literally, I bought a DeLorean and a Ecto-1, and that's my team,
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
All right, so my number 5 is going to be Gaslands as well. I just like on Will, we talked about that. I have only really played this game once, but I'm in for investing in this game. Just the fact that I can buy a Hot Wheel and a book and play. I don't know. It's going to be easy to drag other people in. I mentioned it to one other of our friends, and he went off the rails deep into this game. So I'm looking forward to playing that game more, just strictly for the fact that I don't have to buy a bunch of expensive models. I can just use what I have.
Absolutely.
Number 4.
My number 4 is Aristea. Will mentioned this on his. Corvusbelli did an amazing job with this game. making it easy and approachable. I think Will introduced this game to me one night. We spent maybe 25 minutes going over rules, and they do a pretty good job of walking you through your first game. And then once we got started with that, then I was like, nope, we're playing again, because I wanted to get the strategy down. Like it sucked me in real quick. And so with that, I love this game. I played it with Ben another time and somebody else another time, and they were into it as well. I'd really love to develop a season with this where I take a group of people, a group of characters, and play them out and continue to keep playing with other people. I think it'd be really, really great with that.
That could actually be pretty fun. I wonder if they have something like that on their website.
Do they?
If not, I don't know. That's what I'm
Okay.
asking. If not, that's a great idea, guys. But that'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, so solid number 4 for me.
Oh, absolutely. Very good choice. So, all right. So my number 4 is a game that I bought at Gen Con many moons ago, and I have played some of the games by Flying Frog before. I have a game called Fortune and Glory. It was actually one of the first games that I bought from them. And looking at the game and how it played and the theme and everything was great. And then I was at Gen Con and I was walking by their booth and I saw a game called Shadows of Brimstone. And I went ahead and I picked it up. I was like, I like Flying Frog. Everything looks really cool. I like the dungeon delve, the dungeon crawl things. And I bought the City of Ancients expansion, or the core set. Took it home. I was there on a Saturday. Was only going to go one day. Took it home, was looking at the components that night, reading through the cards, reading the rule book. The next morning I woke up, I told my wife, I said, we're going back, I'm buying the Swamps of Death. Like, we literally went back on a Sunday, bought another day badge to Gen Con. Now it was cheaper because it was the family day or whatever. Actually, you know what? I think I met up with you.
You did, and you had like bags
right
that day because you had bought a whole bunch more than that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I did. But I had to buy it. Like, it wasn't even an option. I had to go back. I wasn't gonna wait another year to wait to get this copy of this game. I absolutely adore this game because not only do you get the modeling aspect, you build models, paint models, you get the RPG elements of building up a character. You get the dungeon delve, the randomness. Yes, I mean, there's some scenarios, but it's also, hey, we're just going to keep going, whatever, until we can, whatever. I mean, there's scenarios you can play, but it's also, you can also play or drive it. You know what I mean? It's amazing. Absolutely. Is this on your list?
Oh, yeah.
Is this on your
Yeah, I'm
list?
talking about it later.
Okay, hey, you know what? That's what I got. This game is amazing. I went ahead. I missed the Forbidden Fortress expansion. I don't have that core set. A buddy of mine does. But I did went ahead and get the Valhalla one. I'm very excited for that. I think you probably got
Yeah,
that
I can't
too.
talk about this yet.
So let's get into it.
My number 4 is Aristea. Already been talked about.
That's that high up, huh?
Yeah, I really like that one. It actually, I guess, trickles down. You taught Brad, and then Brad introduced me to it, and I was hooked because it's quick. It reminds me a lot of Guild Ball, but a lot less, and you can easily jump into it and build that team. And I've only done the core stuff with what Brad's had because I haven't bought the game yet, but I've enjoyed it just because of how fast it goes. I'm real interested in building teams and seeing what that goes. The idea of a season, Brad, sounds real intriguing to me. But yeah, I enjoy it just because it's so quick. I like the models. It looks great. Yeah.
I mean, it's a game show, so I mean, there's no reason you couldn't do like, what is this season?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh,
That'd
yeah.
be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool with like card. I know they have the one card pack,
Yeah.
and you got that one.
I got the card pack, but
Yeah.
I think didn't you buy an additional model?
I bought alternative models
You bought the alt model.
for what you've already got.
Yeah.
Different skulls, basically. These ones
Yep.
are in metal. So
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know what? Like I might have said it earlier, but they did an amazing job creating up backstories for everybody too.
Oh, yeah.
Like there is the starter's manual, there is another manual, and then there's the book of like lore basically in the core box. And I'm not really dove into that completely, but if you want to know more about each of your players, it's there. It's really great.
Yeah, Corvusbelli just does an amazing job with world building.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me is actually by idwgames, and it's the Ninja Turtles game. I did a Kickstart for that. It's kind of their 2.0 from Shadows of the Past, but then they did a re-release of new models, kind of some updated rules, and just some amazing expansion with that. It follows the comics that IDW is putting out, And I just really love that system. I mean, I'm a huge Turtles fan since I was little. So being able to get that, dive in, have the Turtles there. I like the look of the sculpts. But I think the thing that pushes it up for me is they've developed what's called the OG system for gaming. And they're going to continue to release new types of IPs, but with this same system so you can have crossover. So I recently just kickstarted the Batman animated series. And it's going to be able to play with each other. So being able to have the Turtles with Batman, I'm like, of course I'm going to do that.
Oh, they do that in the comic books.
Oh, yeah, they've already done it in the comic
Right.
books. And then next year, where they're hinting at where they're going to go is actually The Last Airbender and do that series with that same model of game style. And I'm a huge fan of that series as well. So, I mean, IDW's just kind of got the fish hook in me and pulled me in. But love that one.
Well, what's interesting, though, is the guy that actually designed Descent and that system was the guy that designed this system.
Yeah.
Right? I was actually hoping it was going to be more similar. I'm not a fan of rolling dice and then making decisions on what I can do with those dice. I would rather just make the decision. I don't want it to have it be dependent on the dice that I roll.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Right.
And that's the part I like because, I mean, the Turtles are supposed to play with each other. Like, you depend on them. So being able to roll the dice and then you share dice with the people around you.
Sure.
When I'm thinking through, like, how do you get that system in place, I like that idea of, okay, if I'm Raphael, I want to share with Donatello and Leo, so
Sure.
got to divide those dice up. But that's kind of the management side of me. I like doing that type of stuff.
I like the game. I mean, I like the models.
Oh, yeah.
I like the story that, so far. I've only played the Shadows of the Past one. I haven't, obviously, I mean, the Batman one, though, if you guys didn't know, is actually up on Tabletopia.
Yep, we've played.
Okay, awesome. I didn't know if you guys had seen that. So, now, is the whole game up there or just this first scenario?
First 3 scenarios with
Oh, cool.
Joker, I think.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you can play through with that.
And Tabletopia is free, by the way.
Yeah,
So-
if you want to try it out, jump on, you can play it.
So,
It shows up on my list later, so I'm going to hold back my comment.
very cool. All right, so my number 3, actually, smiling.
I looked at your list.
All right, well, my number 3 is a game that is, I don't know how to describe it. It does not have very good miniatures. It has miniatures. They're itty bitty little cars.
Yeah.
Little
Oh,
race
that
cars.
one. Oh, yeah.
They're tiny. They're tiny.
Dang.
They don't look the best, but I tell you, the gameplay. If there was, this is so close to.
What's the game? You haven't even said the game yet.
Well, you just
Okay,
winged it.
all right.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
It's so amazing as far as like how you push your luck in this game. It is Formula D.
I'm embarrassed this isn't on my top 10.
Yeah,
Well,
I forgot about that
but
one.
that's the thing is, it when you think of games with miniatures, it has cars, which they're not like cards or whatever. But to push your luck, how you push your system, how you drive, how you have to roll the dice, how you have to shift. My family has always been pretty big, and especially my dad has been big into like cars and racing and stuff, and it never really got with me. But as far as this game, just fires on all cylinders for me. For
Pun intended.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. Good one. But it's absolutely amazing.
You're going to have to carry the rest of us on this one because I think we both are now feeling guilty it's not on our list. So talk more about the game here.
So in this game, you're going to be a car driver, and you're going to be going around these different tracks. The tracks are double-sided, and there's 6 expansions for this newer version. There's an older version of this as well that has a lot more tracks. I know there's a lot of different ones that you can even get online. I would love for a company to release a neoprene of each of the maps. I would literally spend $25, $30, $35, $40 for each neoprene for each of the tracks. That's how much I love this game.
Yeah.
Now, other people, would that be worth it to them? I don't know. This game is amazing to me.
I'd invest in a couple of neoprene mats for that game because the boards folding out a little bit can be a little weird, and there's a bit that
You bump the table,
you
the cards
bump
can
the table
slide.
and the cards can slide. That's exactly what I was going to say. Or the dice hit the table wrong or something.
When that's a rule that I have when I play this game.
Dice can't get rolled on the
Do
table.
not roll the dice on the board.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, that is a no-no.
We have dice trays every time we play with that. Look,
Yep.
I'm going to say that the reason this should have been on my list is that I have carried this game to so many different game nights. It almost always gets played, and the box that I carry mine in it's degraded to the point that I've had to almost have to strap this thing back together because it gets played all the time. I'm surprised I still have all the pieces, but the more important thing is that when I've taken it to game nights, guys that are normally there for the munchies and conversation will gravitate over towards this game and want to sit down and play.
Anybody can play it.
Yeah.
It's so easy to pick up.
It's so easy.
But it's got so much great strategy, and the push your luck is just second to none.
And look, the more times you play it and you get people who have played before, you can go into the advanced rules, which I've stopped teaching the basic rules in its entirety. When I teach somebody the new thing, I teach them the whole thing. And it's actually, we've played out a lot better doing that. I got on one side of the card, it is just you have 20 damage points. If you do it on the advanced rules, you have different damage points for your engine, your transmission, your body, your suspension, your brakes, and you have to kind of play to that on each one, and some of the things you do will affect that. But then there's even another mode past that point that you get into a little bit of a role-playing mode where you can play as a specific character, that their cars are shifted a little bit based on their particular preferences, and you get a special ability. Like there's just so much expansion to this game, and it is phenomenal. I can't say enough great things about this game.
Love it.
Absolutely.
And it, like you guys already said, it's so easy. We've done some stuff with some high school students that we worked with, and their attention span is usually a lot shorter when it comes to teaching. And this is just an easy one. Put down, they get the lesson on how to go, and we're going.
How many games like that can you drop off in a game in a board game night and get like 10 people playing?
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't slow the game down.
No.
I mean, it does to a little bit. Now, there's not much as far as like analysis paralysis, though. Mm-mm. Like literally, the much analysis paralysis is figuring out which gear to be in, and then where exactly you want to move.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it.
You roll a dice, you move some spaces, you follow the board.
That's it.
That's it.
Right.
Yep.
But how everybody's moving and deciding where to go and how they want to try to block other people. And the more people you play, the better the game is.
100%.
And not too many games that I can say, you know me, I don't want to play with. Having too many people around the board, if it slows down the game way too much, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Right.
I hate it when people are on their phones at the board game table. I hate it when people, are getting up to get off their phone, or talking to people, or just get away from the table and go do something else. And you're like, hey, it's your turn.
Yeah.
This game, that can happen if they step away. It doesn't matter. Because in the grand scheme of things, they get they wait for their turn. Doesn't matter in this one. So the more people you have, the cooler it is. Mm-hmm. Because the more cards you've got to maneuver around or try to block, and this is great.
Great game, good choice, Will.
So.
Yep.
Alrighty.
So number 3 for me is going to be Firefly Adventures. So this is the second game that galeforcenine put out with the Firefly IP, and this one isn't ship battle. It's not anything up in space. It has everything to do with the missions on the ground.
Do the job. Get paid. That it?
That's it.
All right.
Do the job, get paid. Like it plays like Imperial Assault, or games like Imperial Assault, where you're going to accept the mission, do the mission, react to the minis on the board. But there's not a whole lot of like carrying stuff through to further missions. Like
there's not really leveling up with that one.
There's a little bit of it, like a little bit of the storytelling changes. If you don't do this mission a certain way, then it might affect the next mission. But no big deal. Like the game plays as it is. Design wise, they design every component of this game to be played as a part of the game. So every little mini box is a part of the game. You buy an expansion, that box becomes a part of the game. Like they have done about everything they do to use about every single piece of this game to be a component of this game, which I freaking love. Like that was a genius way to do this. I think that playing as a specific character within there, like since I'm so into Firefly, gives me the ability to play as their character style, not as Brad, but as Jane. I love it.
I mean, the reason why they had to put so much in and you use everything is because there's only like 5 episodes of Firefly for them to go off of, so.
All right.
Okay. I love the fact that the components in the box are some of the buildings, and you get inside of them. And you can interact with the doors, and it's awesome. The tokens, be able to find stuff. What I have a problem with is there's, 4 scenarios in the box?
More than that. I think
there's
like more than that.
I'm pretty sure there's
Well,
only,
I got 2
the
expansions. Yeah, okay.
There's only 4 scenarios in the box. Once you've played them, to me, I know they have variability as far as like where like keys are going to be and who drops what. But once you've played it, it's kind of like, well, why would I go through and do it again? However, it does have some real replayability because like when you try to like interact with somebody and talk to them, if you fail, they may attack you, right? Or somebody spots you and you've got to sneak and whatever if you're acting casual. I just wish there was more of and they could have easily done this, more of that campaign.
Yeah.
I wish there was. I could take my character and level them up and continue to go, because I've done this for a long time. I actually bought it for you, and then when I brought it to you, you were like, "Oh, I already have this." I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll keep it."
Yeah.
So I took it back and I played it, and we played the first 2 scenarios. I don't think I'd ever play it again unless I was playing with you. It was okay, but I mean, for me, Imperial Assault does it better for wanting to advance and move on to the next.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's beat Imperial Assault for you.
I think the IP is what pulls it forward for me, and that I think to go back on Imperial Assault, the reason why it falls down on my list is that need to have that core group of people that have to keep playing. And I've been a part of so many different groups that have fallen apart because so-and-so decides they're not into it, they bounce out. So-and-so moves away, they bounce out. So-and-so just gets bored and doesn't want to do it. Or we chose the wrong person to be as the GM, which you've shown we can do that, where they were a lot more analysis into it, and it just got boring. So I think I failed so many times through Imperial Assault. That's why it falls lower in the list. And because this is Firefly, and because like every time we've played Ben, we keep saying, man, I want to play this game again. Like it just has that forward. So a year from now, it may not end up on number 3 on my list.
Sure. Where is it?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
The only reason why it's not on my list is because of that not having a campaign or leveling up. Those types of things is what I love in a game. And this one's just that sit down with the scenario. There's a little bit of a learning curve. Feeds a little bit off the Firefly space game, but it's just that I want to have this character. I want to develop him. I want to see him grow. And it's just, okay, well, here's the scenario. Let's do this one.
Yeah.
But the mechanic, I do like the mechanic with the time. You've got that along the side of the board.
Yes.
And that is a fascinating one. I've never encountered that type of gameplay before.
That is very interesting. So everything you do requires a certain amount of time to be able to accomplish it. We've got a certain amount of time to be able to actually complete the mission or whatever.
There's another game that we played recently that has that.
I
can't remember. It's similar to when we played Tapestry. Tapestry kind of had a timekeeping system that was similar.
Yeah.
Not the same, but similar.
I could see that. I can see where you're going with that. Inherently different as far as like with what you're doing, but I like that instead of actions. I mean, you can still I could take lots of actions, lots of short actions.
Yeah.
I can take as many as I can until it's your turn. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything as far as aesthetically though is just bland. I think like the buildings, like the main board where you're in the desert or whatever, just brown.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It's definitely further up because of my love for Firefly and my
absolutely.
desire for more. Like galeforcenine, you guys want to take some time and build out some more content for this game. I'm going to be just like I was for Firefly the board game. I'm going to keep buying it. So I bought everything for Firefly the board game is out. I'm going to buy everything for this one when it comes out. Like
make a campaign system for it.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you've already got the player base. If you've already got the player base, I mean, don't print as many of it or whatever, but I would play it with you. I personally wouldn't go out and buy it. But there's so many Firefly fans that are out there that are just screaming for stuff.
And there's content. Like there's story to be told in this universe that is either in comic books or they have given us enough to keep going on. You've got material to go with.
Well, but they do have they release a bunch of like missions and stuff online. And they're like fan created content and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could just keep playing those, but I wish they would just come up with some sort of campaign system.
Yeah, I got you.
That'd be pretty cool.
So
awesome.
what I hear you saying, Brad, is if they do a 2.0, you'd be willing to spend money on it so that you can update what you already have?
No.
It's different because that's Star Wars.
If I've got to buy a
difference.
2.0 system to retrograde everything and pull it forward, then I'm going to have a problem. If they get a 2.0 system that uses the first stuff and
That retrogrades it.
Get out of here. Okay.
Number 2.
So number 2 on my list, we're going to go back to Shadows of Brimstone. So this shows up as number 2 for a real important reason in that I love this game, and we, for a while, were getting together every single week to continue playing our characters. I have 2 different characters. Both of them are Indian Scouts, and I will continue.
Why?
Okay. because
That's a side conversation.
That's a side conversation. Anyway, in any case, I have both of them. They've developed differently to the point that I'm playing two separate characters when I play those two. And sidebar aside, they're brother and sister. I've got enough story between these people in a game that doesn't have any role playing that it just is what it is. In any case,
you role play with this as much as you want it to be role playing.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, that's what's cool about it.
Like, I do make decisions for each character differently based on their characteristics inside my own brain. But in any case, this game, what I love about it is that you can get into a situation where you are completely overwhelmed by something, like whether it be tentacles coming out of the ground or dead bodies or this and that, and it is just like adrenaline pumping to go in there and do this. That's that dungeon crawl aspect. And you might be heading towards a certain thing, and then all of a sudden, oh, look at that, a portal opens up onto this next thing, and now you're on a whole different world with different, like the game changes enough to give you something else to dive into. It just, look, I'm not done playing this game. We have got so much more content to digest that I can't wait to keep playing.
Expansions.
There are so many, which means that we're going to be playing this game for the next 10 years and still.
Did you get Frontier Town? I've heard that really changes a lot of what you can do. I haven't got that one yet.
It's big. It gives a lot of options. But that, if I were going to give you some drawbacks to this, before I do that,
of cards.
there's a lot of cards.
That's
a lot of content.
Sorting through to pick out something. Oh, where's that tile? Oh, let me get my code out.
Yeah. Which when you bring it over, or we come to play with Ben, he has got boxes and boxes and boxes and things he's bought to be able to.
No, basically, I need like a.
Did you get your truck?
Get my truck.
Yeah. Loaded up in the truck,
Box truck. Yeah, we haven't gotten our Shadows of
That's
Brimstone
where
box
it's
truck
going.
yet. Yeah, we did save our box tops for that one. Anyway, there is, you play your mission, but then you also play a different type of game to go from your mission back to town. And then once you're in town, you play a different kind of game. All that's great because there's different types of gameplay for all three of those modes. Except when you're in town with the right people playing again, it's my biggest pet peeve, analysis paralysis. Yeah. You will get people that are digesting every single card or every single board for each different building every single time. And it's like,
well, if you don't know what they are, how are you going to look at it?
It's the same card this time as it was last time. Like when you're looking at the general store, like the general store didn't change this time than it did last time. So why didn't you already have an idea what you wanted to get? I don't know. Like that kind of thing.
So, well, here's the thing for me. So I played this. I've been playing this with my buddy, and I've been playing a monk. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love it. I love the monk in the Forbidden Fortress. And, so I'm sitting there looking at one of the cards. I didn't know he wanted to look at it too. I'm like thinking about what I want to do here, and he's getting pretty pissed that I'm looking at the card. He's like, I can't do anything because you're looking at the card. I'm like, well, I'm looking at the card. Like, what I'm saying is, here's all you got to do: put it onto a copy machine. Copy those pages. Okay, here's your town cards.
Yeah.
Look through your own thing and then do your own thing. So there's no reason you need only one. What they need to do is just release a pack that has I don't want to buy Frontier Town again, but I wouldn't mind spending $20 or whatever buying two extra or an extra set or whatever of those town cards.
Yeah. How did you manage with two
sets?
The
the basic town is available in both core sets, so I have both core sets and I have that. The issue that we hit is with Frontier Town adds new towns to the game. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at one of the ones that's doubled, you can have two people looking. But if you get one that's specific to Frontier, you only have one copy of that.
Right, and that's what I mean. All you gotta do, they should just release that. And I get why they don't, because they want you to buy Frontier Town. If you just buy those cards,
sure.
Yeah. What's really the point except for the extra?
I find myself being one of the first people finished in a town. Like when we go to town, I'll be done, within a couple of nights and know each night in the game what I'm going to do the next time. I don't see them. So I'm always the first one, checked out, completely ready to go. And everybody else is like, well, we're going to spend another night because I want to go look back at the general store. Or, I don't know. We end up spending a lot more time between missions in the campaign than we actually playing the mission sometimes. Yeah. I think one day we played here.
Well, you're playing with the wrong group then. If you're spending that much time in a town.
We played, we had a marathon session here one time where we played for the better part of probably 8.5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, and we made it through 5 scenarios.
I don't think we made it through 5.
4 scenarios, maybe
4.
And I think one of the scenarios I was thinking of was we were playing in a frontier town, and it we had every single night we had something massive go on, and between town and the mission something always went on. so that was all great, except for the town time took twice as much time as the campaigns because something happened every single night. I'm already checked out of town, so I don't have to keep paying the hotel or the campground. I'm done. I don't know. Yep.
No, I get you. It's a great game. Is this higher up on your list?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and do my number 2 then. So my number 2 is kind of a cheat, I guess. You guys have already actually talked about this game. But there's actually another game that kind of goes along with it because to me it's the same thing. It's just different theme. Okay. And that is Descent/Imperial Assault.
Okay.
Now the reason why I lump both of these together as one game is they are the same thing. Different stories.
Okay.
Obviously different, categories. You got sci-fi or you got fantasy, right? But for all intents and purposes, they use the same dice. They have the same type of movement, the same where you have the archetype villain. The one thing that edges, though, Imperial Assault over Descent for me is the fact that it has a different game mode, right? That you can play like, hey, I want to build this force, you want to build this force. We have a skirmish map, and we can just play a 2-on-2 or a 1-on-1 battle.
Yep.
As opposed to, hey, I'm the Overlord, and I'm only playing them. Well, if I want to play like Darth Vader versus Boba Fett. In all intents and purposes, you really don't get to play as Boba Fett in the actual game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Boba Fett's just a side character that's going to be moving around. But this lets me actually play as Boba Fett. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just think that's really cool. And Descent doesn't offer that as an option. But I love this game. And to me, my favorite way to play it is playing with the app. Because while I like the idea of the Overlord, if I don't have a group that I can get together with, I can play this solo.
Yeah.
And if there's only one other person, when I play games, I really enjoy playing cooperative. Mm-hmm. I would rather work with somebody than worrying about, like I'm going to win or lose. Like I said, I just want to throw down and play, and I love both of the apps. I just wish that the campaign that was in Imperial Assault, that's not in the app. Like, I want to play that same story, and I want to be able to play it solo.
Yeah.
But that's not as an option. I would pay money to download that as an expansion on the app. But they don't even give this as an option. You know what I mean? And I really wish that they would have that. And Descent doesn't even have that either. So
I'm pretty sure, and you can quote me if I'm wrong, but there are websites and other ways to play with the Overlord being automatic. I'm pretty sure
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's always options. Yeah. I mean, you can figure something out, but it's just not the same.
I got you.
So.
Yeah.
Awesome. But that was my number 2.
Number 2 for me is actually Guild Ball. We've already talked about it. I love that game. It's that weird combination of fantasy and sports.
Steampunk?
Yeah,
yes.
it's just weird mix of everything, and I just find it a lot of fun. I grew up playing soccer, and that's kind of what this game is. It's soccer, but medieval fantasy steampunkness. Mm-hmm. And you don't just play soccer, you get to beat up on the other players. If that's how you want to win, you go beat up on them and do fights. If you want to try and score, you do that. But just being able to do that, and just that almost tongue-in-cheek how they do some of this stuff with certain mascots being a cat running around on the field or a monkey that's just going to jump on you and tear you apart. Like, that ridiculousness added in with it. I love that. Love the figures. I think they look great, especially with the cheaper plastic. I've gotten a few of the metal, but the plastic, just because it's a cheaper option, is what I seem to be going more towards.
I hate gluing together metal models.
Yeah.
That's a pain in the butt. Yeah. And the fact that they're already done.
Yep, that's a nice thing with plastic. They're done.
When did you start playing? What season?
The current one. When they release Kickoff.
Well, 4 is out now. 4 just came out.
So it'd be 3.
Season 3, okay. I mean, the real reason I ask is because one of the things that I really like about it, I didn't talk about before, was Season 1, you had these characters, you had the teams, and then when Season 2 came out, certain teams may have changed.
Yeah.
So a character that was on one team may have been an alchemist is now maybe a butcher, but, whatever, maybe somebody dies. I just...
Yeah, the backstory that they do with all the teams and characters, and each season changes, and they kind of print out. You can follow along with how that works and where they've joined with a union. Like, I have had that where I've gone to Gen Con and I'll look for characters or I'll look for a team, and all of a sudden someone from one of my other teams is now in this team, and it's, oh, hey, well, that's happened.
Not to mention the free agents, too. You have free agents that can play for different teams.
Yep.
Right. And how the captains change, whether they leave or they die or whatever,
Mm-hmm. And they've started doing, you can get rookies and veterans and different versions of a certain character.
Mm.
So you have this option of fielding however many different teams you want and building that.
I love the fact there's no points.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, you gather your 5 models, I gather my 5 models. I mean, it's obviously not going to ever be like perfectly balanced or anything, but as far as where they're good at, where positions are, you may have all defensive line, or who's better should be playing defensive line or more offensive, and you really got to strike that balance with the number of characters you have. So.
Yeah, the only way they do it is you need a captain and a mascot for the field, and that's about it. And I like that if you have a model kicked out or killed or I guess knocked unconscious, next turn they're back in.
Yeah.
You don't have to go short-handed.
Right, and that was a big difference in 3 and 4 as far as the icy sponge. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, for those of you that haven't played it, that want to play it, like, just go by the kickoff edition. It gives you the brewers and it gives you the masons, and they're enough balanced that you could sit down with somebody and play that one over and over and over and over again without even getting into the extra content and have a blast.
The board in that is double-sided, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. One side has obstacles, the other side is just plain.
One is the proving grounds, and then one is the actual full-blown pitch.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a good board. Looks good, but you picked up the neoprene mat, and that is a good investment with that game. It makes it look a whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. For whatever reason, if there's a neoprene option, I want it.
Yep.
But then the problem becomes where do you store them all?
Yeah.
So. All right. So good call, man.
Okay.
And finally, number 1.
All right, so my number 1 is one of my all-time favorite miniatures games of all time. It uses metal models, which I'm not always a fan of, but I absolutely adore this company. I love the backstory, I love the worlds they create, and that is a game called Infinity. And this is by Corvusbelli. It is a tactical skirmish game set in the real far-off future. You have, troops, you have giant tags. You have motorcycles, you have drop dudes coming in as far as like paratroopers and stuff. It's just so absolutely amazingly fun. And the thing of the game that I love about it is even when I'm moving and it's my turn, it's your turn too. And what I mean by that is I'm taking my guy and I'm moving across the field and you can see him, you can take a reaction while I'm moving and shoot at me. So no matter what I'm doing during my turn, moving a miniature around the table, you always have reactions that you can do to keep it constantly and you always need to be engaged in this game. There's no downtime, and that's one of the things I love about it the most. Uses a D20 system that there's so much to it though, and that's one of the things that can be very overwhelming. It was especially overwhelming for me when I first started to play was how many rules there are. And just how many options you have to build out your layout and what troops you're going to use and the scenarios, and there's just so much. Now they're coming out with this Code 1 version that's supposed to be more of a beginner's introductory, and it's kind of its own smaller skirmish, like skirmish. So I'm, stay tuned to the channel. We should be having some cool stuff on that very soon.
My number 1 is going to be the AUG system as a total. Ben talked about it a little bit with Turtles. I lumped in Batman Adventures as well, the Batman's the animated series. I love this type of system because it gives me the ability to play with my teammates and share dice between the two of them. It has the two IP that it has right now between Batman and Turtles right now were my childhood, and so being able to play as those characters were amazing. And Ben and I did a review of that game a number of months back, and just setting out all the models out and looking at them all made me want to not stop playing until I played with every single one of those models. Everyone has a backstory, everyone has a purpose. I could go on and on about that game. It's another one that I could keep playing. Ben and I sat down and played this game for probably 8 hours one day. And I think that at the end of that session, I was like, what, we have to stop? I wanted to keep playing. So that kind of investment with me, I was playing as all 4 turtles. He was playing as the foot in that particular one. It just so much fun. We played it with 3 other people as well, and being able to share dice between one another and help one another out through things just made it a lot of fun as well. I'll stop there. That is great.
And my number 1, we've already talked about it, is Shadows of Brimstone. That one I picked up about 5 years ago, something like that, because I remember seeing it at Gen Con, got it, and then I had to sit on it for a long time. I was just trying to get a group together to finally play it, and then when we finally did play it, I loved it. I mean, the thing that brought me to actually buy it to begin with was it was cowboys mixed in with H.P. Lovecraft monsters. And it just, a great look to it. I love the miniatures, being able to get the Western, and now that they've got the expansions. I haven't done Forbidden Fortress yet, but I did do the Kickstart that they did. So I've got the Vikings and the Conquistadors both coming. I did it all in.
Me too.
Brad screwed me over by showing me it, and I didn't know about it until he showed me. But I love everything about it. I keep up on their page with Flying Frog and watching what new stuff they have out. They're one of my go-to every time at Gen Con. I want to see what new stuff they have. What can I pick up? We've kind of already talked about it, but at the expansions I've got the Frontier Town, which adds a whole lot more to that in between each mission. Even adding in actual missions in town. So like someone's getting hanged and you need to try and rescue them, or if your character actually starts getting attacked by people, you have a mission that you go to. And the new places that you can actually go to in town actually are good additions. They're not something that's already there.
Do you have a favorite character?
Favorite character? The Saloon Girl and the Gambler. I've been liking those both. I love the gameplay style because every map is going to be different. It's dynamically generated as you play. The opportunity of being able to go anywhere with the expansions because you're jumping through portals, so anytime, any place. I love the potential that it's going to go to. I mean, a good testament to it is with quarantine going on, I wanted to play a game, and I actually did Shadows of Brimstone by myself. Set out several different characters, started going, and I've got a story for each one of them. Like, I've made my own story based off of that and keeping track of it, because why not? It's fun.
This game has a better feel of D&D than actually any of the Dungeons and Dragons games that have come out.
Any of the tabletop Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. I mean, like Castle Ravenloft and those.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think this game is amazing.
It has the depth.
Why is this not number one for you? How did Turtles in this AUG system beat out Shadows of Brimstone?
I think that it's where I'm at right now. I have a yearning to play Turtles and Batman more right now than I do Shadows of Brimstone. I think that's just that I want to play more of it. I want to get to the end of these scenarios. I want to keep playing as Raph. I want to keep playing as Raphael. And there's actually certain points of what he has in the Turtles that I want to play as like them in human form, like way back in the prehistory of them. Like there's stuff of that I want to do. Shadows of Brimstone just always going to be there. That's your dependable friend that's never going away.
Just finding dependable friends who will play it with you.
Yeah, so Turtles is just something I want to play to the end because I feel like there's an end to that. Where Shadows of Brimstone feels like that story's going to keep going for a while.
That's why it should be higher up on your list.
I don't know. It's all in the moment right now.
I just want to mention a couple games that I had on my list. Three of these are I have two on my short list. One was Joan of Arc by Mythic Games, and then one was Super Fantasy Brawl, also by Mythic Games.
I wanted to mention Super Fantasy Brawl as well. I've only played this on Tabletopia with Will a number of times, and the only reason it didn't make my top 10 list was because I haven't played it in person yet.
Yeah, it's not as why it didn't make
mine. It feels like an amazing game, and it's going to be like what Aristeo was for Ben on just being able to pick up and play real quickly. Super Fantasy Brawl is going to be even easier than that, and I think that's got a lot of depth that we're going to find more when it comes out physically.
Yeah, my short list, I've got some Kickstarters and some other stuff I haven't actually played, but Batman, Gotham City Chronicles, Power Rangers, and one called Gatefall. All three of those, I love the miniatures on them. Some of them I haven't even got my hands on, but looking at the models, pictures that are coming out from production, I'm really looking forward to being able to actually play those.
How's come Ashes never came up on either of your lists?
Ashes? It's not it doesn't have miniatures. It's all card.
Models. Okay, well
it's like a Magic the Gathering.
I thought that one you bought for the models.
No, I bought it for the artwork.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
All right, everyone, that was our top 10 list, or I guess top 30 list for games with miniatures. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you'll be notified when we release all of our other great content, such as video games, as well as Star Trek and Star Trek podcasts, all on maturemindedgamers.com. Take care.